These are forgotten gems that you shouldn't miss out on. With the rate of speed that Wizards of the Coast print sets, it's no wonder that there is so much opportunity out there for players. Welcome back, everyone. MTG Moxman here, and thanks a lot for hanging out with me on the channel. The cards I'm going to share with you guys today on the Card Watch video, some of them are like finding hidden gems. Other cards you will recognize quite easily, but I'm sure there's a few cards here most of you probably haven't seen or heard about in a very long time. Some of these cards have great utilitarian value. Other cards are pure powerhouses waiting to be exposed again to what players can build with because of the new cards that Wizards of the Coast is giving us. And I can't wait to go through the list today and share these cards with everyone, because a lot of players haven't actually picked up on these yet, and it leaves a lot of value on the table to get some of these cards at an underpriced value and enjoy them before other players get back to them. Because with the speed Wizards is printing things, players aren't having a chance to go back and look at cards from 8, 9, 10, 12 years ago. They of course will be reprinted at some point, but why pay it at an inflated price when you can get them cheaper right now and enjoy them before other players grab them? We all know that player who builds decks and they come across some card you've never seen because they've gone searching. You know, when you start building a deck, you fall down the rabbit hole looking at all the combinations you can build into your deck. That's what I like to do, and that's what led me to some of these cards again that I've kind of forgotten about. Others I do follow, and I've just noticed a few extra sales starting to happen that I want to let players know about these cards before they really uptick, to let you get in case these are cards you wanted to grab. So on today's Card Watch video, let's have some fun with it. Let's just see what these cards are. Let's get started. So we're starting things off with Nexus of Fate, a buy a box promo from Core Set 2019. I mean, you think about it, it's coming up on 4 years old. A lot of people have already forgotten this card exists, and Wizards of the Coast is not likely to reprint a card like this anytime soon. When you take a look at Nexus of Fate and realize 2 blue and 5 generic, but it's take an extra turn after this one. But I love the bottom part. If Nexus of Fate would be put into a graveyard from anywhere, reveal Nexus of Fate and shuffle it back into the owner's library. That's right, this is a time-walking card that recycles itself. For $22? Guys, this is super cheap. I mean, I actually own only one copy. I bought it after I realized this card existed. This is an amazing time-walking card, and Wizards doesn't really seem keen on a lot of these cards nowadays, so it's going to be one of those cards that I don't see it being reprinted, but the value is definitely there for people playing blue control, time-walking decks. Think about adding things like this in, and the combinations of what you can do with it, it can just work so well with all these cards we have to work with nowadays. Now our next card is another time-walking card, and that is Temporal Extortion, Planar Chaos. I own 4 of these already. I've played with this a lot of times in a black time-walking deck I built. Now, I know that's kind of weird, but think of a card like this nowadays in Commander. This is only $12 to buy this card. Yes, the foil will be expensive to go for an OG foil, but you look at this card as a sorcery, and it says, when you play Temporal Extortion, any player may pay half of his or her life rounded up. If a player does, counter Temporal Extortion. Take an extra turn after this one. It's a 4 black mana time walk spell that if somebody wants to counter it, they can, but in Commander, going from 40 life to 20 life, and let's face it, there's lots of ways to get 4 black mana pumped out really quick with all the little pests and things we have nowadays. I mean, this card can be played very quickly, and you can make some opponent take the chance or give yourself an extra turn. Not to mention, even in late games, this can still be a great card to have around. I don't see it played too often, but I love this card. Now, when we're taking a look at our next card today, that is going to be Lighthouse Chronologist. Now, this card from Rise of the Eldrazi, I used it multiple times in sets of 4 when this thing was in rotation. It was a brutal card to play with, and it messed up so many players if you could keep it alive. Now, the average price being only 15, 16 bucks, a foil being $70 though, that tells you, I mean, this guy's not likely to get a reprint anytime soon because they haven't done level up cards for a while. And when you look at it, it's 1 blue and 1 generic. It's a 1/3, only 1 blue to level it up. But it's when it gets to the 7+ level. At the beginning of each end step, if it is not your turn, take an extra turn after this one. I mean, I still have my playset of 4, like I was telling you guys. I kept a lot of playsets of these cards, but when you start building decks and you realize just how powerful a card like this is, at that price point, I'm not sure why I don't see more in play or why I don't see more people buying them. But this one's recently started to have an uptick of sales on things like TCG Player as well as locally. I saw some people buy the foil copies when I checked into stuff. So this card is getting a little more notice now. But I just want to know if you guys are the ones buying it. Are you the ones out there picking this card up? Come on, share with the Mox, man. Let me know because somebody's buying copies. Now our next card is going to be Knefit. I mean, War of the Spark, what an epic battle that was. Remember those beautiful cutscenes? And this is a card that did see a whole lot of play. When you take a look at him, as only $4 right now, he is 2 blue, 2 generic for that 4/5 flying. You may reveal the first card of your draw each turn as you draw. Whenever you reveal an instant or sorcery card, that way you may copy it. And you may cast the copy. The copy costs 2 less to cast. What are we talking about? How is this not seeing more play? But that's okay. That's okay. Because you know what? Cards like this have a way of coming back around. Wizards made all these kind of God Eternal guys pretty tough. So keep that stuff in mind. This card could come back because of what it does for players when they're building with it. Great card. I love this card. I still have a play set. Love it. Now our next card is going to be the Urza's Tower, but the whole series, okay? The Double Masters, the Tron lands. Look how inexpensive these lands have become. These things were like $40, $50. They've been drifting forever. Down, down, down. These haven't been reprinted that often. The artwork is beautiful on them. And getting the full art showcase versions like this for $15 to $20, that is pretty exceptional. And I've seen some actually as low as $11. And that's Canadian, by the way. So when I see these and realize how cheap some of them are, I'm surprised I'm not seeing more players grab play sets and build with them. I prefer the OG original Antiquities versions. I can live with the Chronicles or the 5th edition, the ones that came out later on. But I would go with the original OG. But I would also play with these because they're just so beautiful and the artwork's so well done. So I think you'll see these having more value later on. And if they don't get reprinted with that kind of artwork again, they may have something a little more special on their hands. Now our next card, the Ancient Gold Dragon from Commander Legends Battle for Baldur's Gate. I remember my son got this in his pre-release and people were like just getting devastated when this thing attacked. So when you look at this one, look how far this price has fallen. Understand this is one of the cheaper dragons to get. But the playability, being able to sneak it out with things like Hivas of the Scale, this card still has some playability. It's 7 casting for a 7/10. That's pretty high, but there's lots of ways of sneaking creatures onto the battlefield nowadays. I think it's an underrated card right now. I think there may be some future value of it going back up to $20, $25. It'll take time to tell, but if it keeps sinking in value, this card is going to be a gem that you can steal on a dime for such cheap value, and you can look for the full art, the borderless, all the other versions to get in, but even a base copy, I mean, these things are hard to pull, we know, and if it's this cheap, it's not a bad price point to steal that card away from other players. Now our next card, okay, I remember people just not caring for a long time about this card. The Flagstones of Trocaire. However you want to pronounce it, I'm horrible. You guys know how it is. Time Spiral. I remember this from like Spartadia, because you know, this was like a big battle took place on Spartadia, and this city got like devastated as part of the Icatian Empire, and it got totally leveled in a big battle. So this is like the ruins of it. But look at it, it doesn't come into play tapped. When the Flagstones are put into a graveyard from play, you may search the library for a Plains card and put it into play tapped. There are ways of destroying your own land and making this more effective. There's landfall abilities and stuff you can use. But this is not a bad card to have around. It's a legendary land. I knew a guy who played with 4 of these and would nuke his own lands and bring them back and nuke them and bring them back and nuke them and just cycle through to get all these Plains cards into play. So keep that in mind. Cards like this, they're legendary. It's not super expensive at like $5 for an original one. Yes, the foil will cost you a pretty penny, but it's just such an amazing card for such a cheap price. Love it. Way to go, Wizards. You made some great cards for us to play with. All right, our next card is Sulphurous Springs, and that is from Ice Age Original, okay? When I look at this card, the Pain lands, I say, okay, you get colorless mana, but you can also tap for the colors you care about. This is a good card. It's not like a Mana Confluence. No, it's not City of Brass. But when used in combination with all those cards together, you can really synergize your mana base. And that's what you care about when you're building decks. So a card like this, or any of the versions from Ice Age that are the pain lands, we used to call them, because they all did 1 damage to you, but only gave you 1 or 2 colors. It was painful. It was painful to use. Cards like this, you just can't forget about them and recognize what they do for you when you add them in with other cards. Yeah, you need the other ones in there, but it's an amazing card as an addition for cards you want to have. I look at it and say for 14 to 16 bucks, it's a steal. Okay, original OG art, steal, and definitely go for the near mint versions. Now, Darkslick Shores. I look at this card, and yes, it's been reprinted, but the OG original versions, okay, from Scars of Mirrodin, when you look at original versions of cards, no matter what they are, if they're at a good price point, I start jumping and looking at the foils because Scars of Mirrodin is an older set. And you look at the foil price, it's 35 bucks, okay? The artwork's nice. The foiling back then is really consistent, pretty strong. And there may be a player base who wants to have that to bling out a deck later on. But even if they didn't, buying a copy that's original for $10 to $12 US is still a really good price point. It's a really good deal to get a card like that. And I think a lot of players will really appreciate that when they see that on the battlefield saying, look at that, man. I have all that artwork. And that's what a lot of us go for when we're doing our construction to play with friends. You want to show off some of the amazing cards you've picked up. Now, the last one I want to show with you guys is going to be the Rishidan port. Masters 25. I guess the original is what? Masks, right? Mask? Marcadian Mask, I think it was, right? Is the original, if my memory serves me correctly. I look at this card and look how cheap it is. This is a $16 to $20 card and that's it. An original one will cost you more money, but it still taps target lands. And it only costs 1 to use. It's like a mini land icy. To tie up people's land, that is an amazing card to have around. It fits into basically any commander deck you want to play with, and it's super cheap and affordable for players to grab. I don't think it's going to stay here for a very long time. I don't think that price is going to hold at that level for a long period of time. I think it's due to the fact Wizards of the Coast has just given us so many cards to work with that we're just overlooking cards right now. We're overlooking value and playability because we're always caught up to the new things that are just catching our eye every 5 minutes. But when you sit back and want to enjoy and play the game, some of these cards are going to be amazing things to have around for a very long period of time. And I don't see, like I said, I don't see a lot of these cards getting reprinted anytime soon just because of the direction that Wizards of the Coast is taking with their printing and their sets right now. It doesn't seem to fit the bill with what I'm seeing. So cards like the Chronologist just aren't coming around anytime soon, in my humble opinion. But I want to see what your opinion is on these cards. What do you guys think is going to happen? That's why I call them hidden gems. Thanks a lot for tuning in, guys. Thanks a lot for hanging out with me on the channel today. And you know what? Don't forget, this weekend is a top 10 weekend. We do our top 10 video on Saturday and the hot top 10 reserve list cards on Sunday. I'm looking forward to seeing you all there. Have an awesome day, and thanks for watching. And of course, a big shout out to all the fantastic patrons on the channel who make videos like this possible each and every day. If you want to become a patron, just look me up on Patreon. You might find a slot. You guys see that? Of course you saw it. 9K. 9K. Till we get to 20K already. We're at 11,000 subscribers. Thank you, everyone. Wow. 11,000. I mean, it really has slowed down, don't get me wrong, but we're still 11,000, and that's pretty impressive, so that's amazing. Anyway, it's awesome. I just want to share it with you in case you guys didn't notice. Okay, in case, I know you're the special people, but just, I need to share it with someone, okay? Just that moment in time. Have an awesome day, guys. Thanks for chilling with me. Thanks for hanging out, and don't forget to help out around the house, because you know what? We all need a little help sometimes.